As the drivers prepare to get ready, they head to one of the most historic racetracks on the schedule and one of the best ones in the history, the V8 SuperTrucks World Championship. Today, we're in Nürburgring, Germany, at the Nürburgring for round number 5 of the 2019 season for the Sox Out Racing V8 SuperTrucks World Championship. It's a freezing one today at the Grand Prix Strecke circuit here in Nürburgring. As in the history of the series, we've seen massive battles, side by side, bumping and banging, and some surprise winners here and there on the way throughout the history of the series. Today you'll see it from green flag to checker flag here on RaceSpot TV, as well as on the Sox Out Racing Facebook and Twitch feed. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from across the iRacing world. I'm Justin Prince, joined alongside me the booth today is Paul Smith. He'll be also pressing all the buttons in the control booth seat for today's action here from the Nürburgring. It's been a heck of a season so far, to say the very least, heading into round number 5. We've seen dominance from 2 drivers so far on the schedule, Sven Kammertz along with Dallas Pataska. And heading into today, that really mixed things up in terms of the point standings heading into the day. After Pataska won the first 2 races, because Kammertz has won the past 2 races himself, he has now got himself a 2-point lead inside the championship standings with 287 on the season, 285 for Dallas Pataska, with Bobby Zalenski, Eric Blix, and Tom O'Leary rounding out the top 5. Chris Purnell sits in 6th, Michael Skorlock in 7th, David Williams, Aaron Smith II, Paul Slobonik rounds out the top 10. That does include the drop weeks that were factored in after last week's round. The team championship also comes into picture as well, as Radicals Online Turn Racing sits on the top of those standings. The Vero Escoena Simsport has moved themselves up to 2nd in the standings for the lineup of Zelensky and Williams. Lumpos Racing sits in 3rd in the point standings after some strong runs the past couple rounds, with Radicals Online JRT in 4th. Illusion Motorsports, Sim Esports, Go Team Racing, RSR Esports Red, Buck Jones Racing round out the top 9. RSR Esports White made its debut in the last round with some strong performances over at Barber Motorsports Park. The Regions Championship currently sees the United States on top of those standings. They lead by 39 points with 284 on the season. The UK and Belgium sit behind them, with Sweden sitting in the 4th spot. Australia sits in 5th, with the Czech Republic and Canada rounding out the 7 countries represented. A total of 7 regions will also be represented today. That also brings up the Manufacturers Championship. The past couple years it's gone back and forth. This year Toyota's on top of the standings so far. 290 points total are on their schedule so far, with Chevrolet with 244 in the manufacturer standings so far, entering round number 5. But of course, the Nürburgring, a very challenging circuit for not just its long-term circuit. The Grand Prix Strecke circuit, as you can tell, has been a very cold one for the drivers for practice. Let's take a look at your Minute Cast presented by AccuWeather, the official weather provider of the V8 SuperTrucks World Championship. Today's a very cold racetrack today across the circuit, with lots of clouds and a freezing cold racetrack. Currently 65 degrees Fahrenheit is the air temp. That is about 18 degrees Celsius, 21 degrees Celsius track temp. Currently sitting at 70 Fahrenheit. Overcast skies, high humidity, and very high winds across the circuit today. For a grand total distance of 5 kilometers, that is just about 3.1 miles today. Again, that is your Minute Cast presented by AccuWeather. AccuWeather, the official weather provider of the V8 SuperTrucks World Championship. Let's bring in my partner for today's broadcast once more, the great Paul Smith. It's been a heck of a qualifying session for some of the drivers, and a heck of a challenging racetrack to prepare for. A very cold circuit for these drivers today.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Good evening, wherever you are. It's going to be a really interesting race, that must be said. And the circuit always produces great action in this championship, and I'm sure we're going to be given a good display here today. As you mentioned, qualifying is ongoing. It has been ongoing for about 24.5 minutes, but here we've got on screen is a man who, well, he's pushing and wanting to get a lap time in now. He's running out of time, so he needs to start putting some times in here. It's Bobby Zalenski.
Yeah, some drivers have really struggled in qualifying. Connor Horn, Aspen Belvin, among the drivers that have struggled so far. Zelensky not able to put in a first lap time. Of course, to get any sort of incident point, even if it's a 0x, that disqualifies your time for that said qualifying attempt around the racetrack today. And as you can see with Zelensky, he's trying to push as hard as he can. He's the only pole sitter outside of the two Radicals online trucks that have sat on P1 coming into today's race. The other two pole sitters, of course, in Cameron and Pataska so far.
Yeah, absolutely. As you can see the times on the left-hand side of the screen. There's quite big gaps here, but it's a little bit of a longer course is this one, and it's a technical course as well, so really you get to see the ability of the driver come through here as Zelensky go through the second sector of the circuit. In this final sector, it's tricky. You've got this long sweeping right-hander, and then you go down the back straight here. Well, it's not much of a straight because there's a curve in it as well as you head towards the Vidal chicane. The final chicane on the circuit. We're not using the Grand Prix chicane, we're using the more endurance chicane, so the one that's a little bit more open for us here. But through final corner here, and we'll get to see what lap time Bob Zelensky can put in.
That time you see on the left side for Camberts is a track record for qualifying. Zelensky coming across the stripe for his time. Not enough, though, to get the pole. 155 flat. Cambert's nearly a full second quicker. That smashes the track record from Micah Eshal's, pardon me for the pronunciation, from 2016. That was a 156.623 for the qualifying record that's now been smashed.
Yeah, Micah Eshal's really, it was a record that I didn't think we'd see beaten, but obviously these conditions favouring people as we see Connor Horn come across the line, and he does not improve his lap time on his second lap, but he's going to carry on and just put a few more laps, maybe just practicing just for the last little bit. No, is he deciding to pull over? No, he's going to carry on. So just a little bit of practice now. These laps won't count. In fact, I think he's going to pull over now. So yeah, that's really, there's nobody else. One person that we haven't mentioned yet who hasn't set a qualifying time is Dallas Pataska.
Yes, indeed. Pataska has not even came out of the racetrack yet for qualifying, sitting 14th. The reason why, though, is if you remember what happened at Barber Motorsports Park in lap 1, turn 1. Had a collision. That was 4 safety points. In this series, if you reach 6+, you cannot go out for qualifying. That's what he did after an incident. In the later portion of that round, he's not allowed to come out of the racetrack for qualifying. Will have to start from the rear of the grid due to occurring too much points on his said license. We were talking a bit with Stephen Burbage before today's race from Race Control. He mentioned to us that for Dallas, he's already mentioned his focus is trying to be a lot more cleaner, a bit more cleaner at the very least, rather, for today's round.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, the series that, they do have set driving standards that they expect, and unfortunately Dallas just didn't quite meet those last time out, which is why he's incurring the penalty. But what it does mean is that we could see a potential contender right there for the Hard Charger Award, couldn't we? Because starting from the back, we've seen his pace in the opening 3 rounds of the championship. He's got a good chance of that award.
We'll get to that point in just a moment with the Hard Charger Award, because I want to get to the pace, because this is the second sprint race in the history of the V8 SuperTrucks World Championship. 30 laps is the distance, meaning you must take not just tires, but fuel to make it to the window today. How much more challenging will it be at a track like this that we've seen over the past few seasons to be one that you have a lot of aggression in some of the corners?
It's going to be made a little bit easier in terms of the tyre management because of the weather conditions. That's really going to help them. But there are a lot of corners where you slow corners in, you're then onto the accelerator, then braking and accelerating away again. So you can work the tyres a bit more in that manner. So really, these drivers, they've still got to be careful with these Goodyears as to how they use them. But definitely, it's going to be really interesting to see how this the whole the stints, how they go for the tyres, and when they go for the tyres and fuel, how they manage that and how they work it out as to when's best to come in. But certainly it adds that extra dynamic that we saw back at Sebring.
It definitely adds that dynamic. The likelihood, though, of someone like, I say, Danny Solo, who tried a two-stopper, mind you, he said after the race, may be minimal. We've seen a majority of the drivers make it to the halfway point, come into pit, and go from there, or try and stretch at the end of the field run. Now we'll see which drivers will make a run to the green flag at the top of the lineup. Let's take a look at your starting grid for round number 5 of the V8 SuperTrucks World Championship. Sven Kammertz again starts off on the pole. This is his second of the season. He'll start a full 9/10 in front of Bobby Zelensky on that front row in terms of qualifying time. Eric Blick sits in the 3rd spot today with David Williams coming off a World Championship appearance in the 4th spot. Paul Sylvanek sits off in 5th today with Martin Kapal in the 6th spot. Andrew Caron will start alongside Connor Horn in row number 4, with James Kane and Jonathan Lavinge starting off in 10th. Danny Solo will start 11th with Joshua Mertz, the privateer, in the 12th spot. Stephen Dager Jr. ran 1 lap, recorded 2:05 to be the last time to be recorded today. And the drivers that didn't record times today: Dallas Pataska, as mentioned at the top of the broadcast, Aaron Smith II, Aspen Belvin. That's your 16 drivers making the starting grid today for today's 30-lap race on this 3.91-mile circuit. And the drivers will have a castle to worry about above their shoulders, but not just that, as mentioned. The fuel to watch for, the tires to watch for, and be able to make it to the checker flag. Want to follow along with your favorite driver? Be sure to go to www.soxoutracing.com/onboard to follow on with one of 6 onboard cameras today. A few of them dashboard cams, 2 VR headsets. Von Glace throughout the season has shown those views along with James Kane, along with Connor Horn, Josh Mertz, David Williams, Chris Purnell, Williams, Mertz, Horn, and Kane. You'll be able to follow on with for today's round here from the Nürburgring. But with that, we're about to get started with the driver's grid. The last of the drivers on the racetrack to have about a half a lap distance before they reach the green flag and get underway for this one. What should be things that should be kept in mind for this one before we take this green flag?
Well, turn number 1, that's going to be crucial for these drivers. They really have got to be careful, especially at the start here. And with the field all bunched up, it's certainly a place where you can have a major incident. We shouldn't be too bad in terms of potential track blockages, because it is rather a bit wider than last time out at Barber Sports Park. But I'm looking forward to this race, and it should be an absolute cracker.
And we'll see if it is a cracker and sends out some fireworks. The question is, which kind will we see today? Will we see fireworks from Victory Lane or fireworks on lap 1, turn 1? We're about to find out as Sven Kammertz rolls his way around the final corner through the Coca-Cola curb. Waiting towards the green flag, drivers told to bunch up at the back of the field as they get ready to go. Kammertz again, the control truck on the right side. Zelensky on the left side. Green flags waving at the stand. We're underway for round number 5 at the Nürburgring. And already 3 wide in row number 4. A dive bomb and a half from one of the Go Team racing trucks. Pardon me, that is James Kane. That's able to gain 3 spots heading into turn 1. A clean start so far here, Paul.
Yeah, it's a great clean start. That's what we really wanted to see here today. And these drivers certainly showing the respect of each other, giving plenty of room. One point that we've got to mention, and we'll mention it later on, is track limits at the exit of turn 4. But at the moment, the focus is on the lead. Sven Kammertz is pretty close as one of the Lempol's cars and trucks getting a little bit loose, heading out of 5 into 6.
And those Lempol's racing trucks were working together in more ways than one to prepare for this race. And Blex overruns the corner. Opens up the door for David Williams for a chance for the 3rd spot. Majorly loose. Blex able to save it, though, on the rumble strips. He drops back to 4.
Yeah, that was a big, big moment. And Blick's up. able to hold on to it, but that allows David Williams, who's not had the best of luck in this series so far this season. He's finally got himself into a position where he's on the podium to start with. So interesting to see how we move on throughout this motor race, but a little bit of damage from that little bit of rubbing on the exit of the Dunlop hairpin.
Yes, indeed, and he's losing some time falling back to Connor Horn, who's already up to the 5th spot. Started off 9th, +4 in the first 3 quarters of the racetrack. Meanwhile, right in the backdrop, Horn able to save it as Kammertz comes across the stripe, and it will lead lap 1 of 30 here at the Nürburgring. To get to your point that you were brought up, just before today's race, it was mentioned that exiting the arena section, if you pass all 4 tires beyond the white line of the corner of turn number 4, that is around where you see some of the drivers pass by the lane on the left side. It comes across the other side of the arena. You'll see the white line on the left side of the racetrack. You put all 4 tires across that. You cannot pass an air driver. You can, however, be passed, as you'll see the line on the left side of your screen right now.
Yeah, we'll see it just right there. That's where the line is. That's the one that you can't put all 4 wheels over. And these trucks, they're going to have an interesting time of it later on in the race. As Stephen Dacre Jr. going for a spin in the arena section. Not ideal to be out there in the runoff, but luckily there is plenty of runoff out there.
Now let's take a look at the race spot replay. You see him exiting the arena section through turn number 3 and just looked like a lock up and an overcorrection. Able to hook it to the right to keep it away from the rest of the traffic behind him. That's going to lose him a lot of time already. 24 seconds back of the race lead.
Yeah, it's not ideal. As looking back here, Matt Capel has got his way past Connor Horn here on this lap whilst we're looking at that replay. So Horn has lost the position now to Capel.
And that Dunlop curb seems to be the cause, because we've seen 2 straight laps, trucks get loose. That time it was Horn that led to the pass. Horn wants the spot back. Door shut that time, though, by Martin Capel. He did not take part of the last round, remember. Had to go to the spotter stand after what happened in the 3rd round at Sebring.
Yeah, absolutely. So, really, as we've got a truck going on to pit road already.
And that's James King. Something going on with James King. We've seen this at Sebring before with, I believe it was Connor Horn. I believe it was one of the privateer
Danny
trucks
Solo,
in that race.
Who took an early pit stop, didn't he?
No, and before that, too, Aaron Smith on the 2nd lap of that race also came in. And it looks like James King might have a similar situation.
Well, hopefully it's nothing too serious and that you can get back out onto the racetrack. But, yeah, taking to the pit road very early, at this early stage, is far from ideal. That drops you down to the back of the field.
Mandatory pit stop for tires is 8 laps 8 through 23. That's the mandatory window. Side by side, meanwhile, were a couple of trucks sliding on by the spot. That's the 19 of Itasca, pushing a driver up the racing line. That was Slavonic.
Yeah, Paul Slavonic was caught out there. Itasca had the inside in the end, and Paul just thought better of it and just went way out wide. Made sure he didn't lose control. So Itasca already up to 9th place in this race. He's certainly giving it a good go, but looking at my timing screen, he's 11.3 seconds behind the race leader here.
And remember, he couldn't record a qualifying time, and he's setting some of the faster laps on the track at the moment. Last time by 1:57.4. That is 3 seconds slower than his corporate teammate in Kammertz. As you look now on board to Connor Horn. Connor Horn's had an up-and-down season, to say the very least. Of course, started off the year as a privateer, now part of Go Team Racing, and is now trying to get one of his strongest finishes of all of 2019 at the moment.
Yeah, it's great to see Connor up here, battling out for the higher positions as he goes through the chicane. A little bit better line than Capel there, so a little bit more composed. Taking the wider entry into the corner to try and V off the corner to get the power on early, but it's just not quite working out for him. But down the pit straight now, it's a question of, is the slipstream going to be strong enough for him to have a look into one? He's certainly looking, but he's not close enough yet.
He actually hit the brakes early, but seemed to trail off of them a little bit longer compared to Capel. You've seen with the distance a little bit harder on the front tires. Capel Horn A little bit more distance in terms of how long he braked. And don't forget Andrew Karen at the back of that train as well. He's also trying to get a spot as well, as Karen nearly loses it behind them.
Yeah, so Andrew Karen involved in all this as well. It's a 3-truck battle here for 5th place. It's certainly been a really interesting one to follow, and these guys certainly giving us a really good show to keep abreast of everything that's happening here. So it's certainly good. And in the background there, Pataska now attacking Jonathan Levine.
And Levine trying to defend a little bit to the right side. Much later braking again from Pataska as he can't get to the inside quarter panel. Has to take a wider line this time through the Dunlop curve as they head towards Michael Schumacher S. But Pataska's really on the charge, wants to gain as many positions as he can. Remember, Bobby Selensky won the Hard Charger Award in the last round after what happened on lap 1, turn 1. Of course, the Hard Charger Award, if you end up, say, falling back positions, you can, the neck positions back can lead to you getting the Hard Charger Award and or the most positions gained winner, of course, of the Hard Charger Award, getting $5 US in iRacing credits.
Yeah, nice little bonus for everyone to be able to keep up to just have that little bit of extra emphasis there. Look at Pataska though, better run through the chicane, not able to make the most of it, and that's just allowing Levine to hold on to that position for the time being. But you can see how these trucks, the trucks ahead as well, are all battling, but it's Pataska now looking to make the move.
And Kane is still in the pit stalls, mind you. He's been in the pits for now 2 minutes and 40 seconds. Here's an issue.
He's pulled that truck into the garage. That's him done for the day for King. He had an unfortunate round last time out as well at Barber with that spin and then the T-bone. And it's just not worked out for him these last couple of races.
Stick to this battle, meanwhile. This is again for a spot. Levine again defending Pataska. Pataska still nearly getting towards the back bumper. Seems every single corner right now with the way he's attacking. That's also letting Sylvatic back into said battle as Pataska tries to charge on the outside of Ford. Curb nearly runs over the back of Levine once more.
Levine, great defensive driving there. Holding it, the truck on the apex, forcing Pataska to back out of it and to wait his turn. So definitely really good driving there from Jonathan. Really good defensive driving, but you imagine with Pataska he's going to be getting a little bit more and more desperate, but he realises after last time out he has to be careful with his overtakes as well, and luckily in this sprint format he's got the time to make those overtakes as well.
Yes, we're just approaching lap 6, 25 laps to go this time by as Pataska hits the rumble strips and nearly loses the truck. So at this point, it seems like he wants to, of course, still make the move, but at the same time, you don't want to be too aggressive because it's a bit longer than you normally see. Last year, it was a more towards 20 laps the total distance in 2018 for this round at the Nürburgring, meaning you still have to make it a little longer on the tires and not just think, okay, we can make it about 9-10 laps, then come into pit for fresh tires, then go all out and go for a short run. They have to think about the full fuel run.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got to think of when is going to be the ideal time to make that stop and to get that fuel and make that strategy work out well. I mean, Pataska right now could be, if he feels he's faster, he'll be wanting to make the move, and that's exactly what he's doing there on the exit of 2 into 3. This is where he made his move on Slavanic on the other side of him, but Slavanic and all words against what Slavanic happened last time out, Pataska was able to make the move down the inside rather than the outside. I got there eventually.
Levine is starting to struggle a little bit too on top of that. So not just Ward started trying to be figured out there. Levine starting to slide back already. Has lost almost a second to the back of Pataska. Now has to deal with Sylvatic, who is diving in aggressively behind him. So it looks like Levine's starting to fall off a little bit in terms of the short to medium now run pace on the racetrack on lap 6.
Look at him through the Schumacher S here. The trucks are on the limit. You can see how Levine was just moving about. The rear end was moving out just a little bit more. than Slavonic, and definitely Paul looks a little bit more stable, does his truck, at this point of the race. As I say that, he has to get off the throttle, but he's certainly looking like he wants to make a move, and at the moment he's just biding his time.
Yeah, both of them were about the same pace last time. In fact, Slavonic was about a tenth of a second quicker. But something we see a lot in terms of road course racing / endurance racing is drivers to tuck in behind another one, try and save fuel that way and save tires. We'll see if that comes into play, maybe potentially here. Still going now on lap 7 of 30 today. Still about a couple more laps until the pit window opens. And as this has all gone on, Cameras has pulled away to 3.2 seconds away from Bobby Zelensky. David Williams is 6 seconds back in third, with Blixt separated away in our second back to then. And then you have that battle that's been going on for 5th and 6th on back now.
Yeah, we keep an eye on this. We'll keep an eye on the timing sheets as well for that battle for 6th place between Connor Horn and Andrew Karam. So far, those two, well, let's have a look at them. They've got a few truck lengths between them at the moment, but those times have been sort of going back and forth, haven't they? They've been getting closer, then going apart, then getting closer again. Aspen Belvin has had an incident, and I believe this is down at turn 1.
Yes, it is. Aspen Belvin able to get going after this one after touching the guardrail. You'll see why. Turn 1 hits the rumble strips on the downward transition. In fact, just misses the wall, the Armco barrier, but is stopped in a bad spot. He's now lost a lot of time getting passed by Dager Jr. as he had to get back going.
Yeah, and he's all the way down to 14th. Only Joshua Mertz is behind him here, and so basically he's got a bit of a lonely section of the track at the moment. One thing we'll look at is David Williams and Eric Blitz. These two are getting close together again.
This time by, looking at the times on our side, Williams a little bit slower, 4/10 slower than Blixt. Of course, you can tune into live timing at RaceSpot TV /timing to follow on with where your favorite driver is across the racetrack today. But as you can see, the time is being gained by Blixt. Meanwhile, of course, Williams, you got to remember, coming from the Porsche Pro race just a little while ago. I believe it was a 7th place finish in that one.
Yeah, it was. It was a 7th place finish, and really strong finish for him. But yeah, it's a different beast, is this truck, from the Porsche 911. Although the 911 being rear-engined does make the tail end a little bit happy at times. So a little bit similar to this truck, as Eric Blixt is finding out right now.
And you can see right now Blixt wants to get a position back here, a chance for a podium spot once more, still in the early going into this race. Separated now by 1 truck length, as Williams has a little bit better of a launch that time, though. Took a little lower line, able to get the second diamond out of the Dunlop curve as they now head towards the Michelin curve, the quick S rather, of the Michael Schumacher S. As Blixt still trying to reel in the driver with some late braking we've been seeing. A bit more aggressive compared to Williams as he gets to the back bumper nearly.
Oh yeah, look at how much time he gained through that left-hander there, but onto the back straightaway here. This is where he needs to make the slipstream count, but I don't think he's close enough to make a move into the chicane. And I think he'll just sit behind for the time being. If he feels that he's quicker but not by much, he might want to just sit behind for the time being, save himself a little bit of fuel, so that when it comes to the pit stops, he can have that shorter pit stop and contact!
And Williams making contact after getting loose on the corner of the Coca-Cola curb. Got some contact from behind. Both trucks still going, but damage to both of them as well. You'll see why on your RaceSpot replay. And I think it might have been a little help on that corner exit of the Coca-Cola curb.
Yeah, Blitz was just carrying a little bit more speed through Coca-Cola curve. And on the exit there, just gets into the back of Williams. And it does affect both the drivers, but I think it's affected Blitz a little bit more. And he's maybe helped David give himself just a little bit more damage to the rear of that Coanda truck.
And the reason why I think you're worried, and I'm seeing this a little bit too, it looks like Blix's suspension might have been slightly bent or something on that right front tire. That's causing a little bit of handling. Meanwhile, back behind that, his teammate and Mark Paul is trying to make a move on Connor Horn. This is now a 4-truck battle for the 6th spot. Horn, Kapal, Karen, and now Pataska join into the picture frame.
Well, it was Horn who actually made the move on Kapal on this lap, but Kapal is not going to give this one up, that's for sure. And these two, they are battling away, and because they're battling away as they are, it's allowing Karen to stay with them, and it's also allowing Dallas Pataska to move on up closer to them.
Looking from the back of Horn again, Kapal a little late braking. It looks like both the Lempos racing trucks being aggressive on corner entries today. And on top of that, Karen's a little aggressive as well in the corner entry as he goes off into the sand and loses some time. So it seems like they've gone back and forth a little bit every single lap, it seems. Pit window is now open this time by for the drivers. So that is something to definitely keep in mind as well as they go to the NGK chicane.
Yeah, these guys, they're not going to be pitting yet. Not out of choice, anyway. They may pick up a bit of damage and think, do you know what, now's the time to get that done if it's affecting their speed. But otherwise, I think that they'll be staying out here for as long as they dare and basically try and get the moves done. Looking back, Paul Slavinik and Aaron Smith II and Jonathan Levine as well, all battling it out for that 9th, 10th and 11th.
And this is getting a really intense for just the edge of the top 10. Aaron Smith taking the outside line to the Mercedes Arena. Question is, can he stick to it? Jonathan Levine's been dropping like a rock since the start and doesn't want to drop anymore. This time, though, trying to use the outside line, able to get the run as Smith hits the rumble strips on the inside.
That was perfect from Levine there. Using that outside line means that you get on the power that little bit earlier, and it means that you're able to pull away. Look at Pataska down the inside. Karen's left a big hole there for him to go down, and I think he realises that Pataska is faster, and he's thinking the long game here is Andrew.
Yes, indeed, it looks like, knowing Pataska is in terms of a different pace right now. Pataska 156.9 last time, just a couple tenths off the leaders. Everyone else he's racing around 2 to 3 seconds slower a lap at the moment. So Pataska looking better in terms of long run pace so far, as we've seen from both the Radicals Online teams all season so far.
I mean, you just look at that graphic there in the bottom right-hand corner. Last lap, 2 seconds faster than Martin Kapal. So that just shows how much pace Pataska has in that Toyota.
Now the question is, when does he try to make a move on Kapal and Horn? They're separated again by half a truck length. They've been attached to the hip for much of this race so far. And Pataska looking to do a little bit of surgery. 20 laps to go this time by. He tries to get the draft. He's been very aggressive, we've seen, to the Mercedes Arena as well. The past couple passes to the Dunlop curb. He tries to get into that position now into turn number 1, down to a truck length, and a much better quarter exit, able to use the little banking to get down the hill. As you look, he's your top 8 on the bottom side of your screen. Top 8 separated by 18 seconds from 1st to 8th.
Yeah, so it's still relatively close. Look at the amount of movement from Mark Kapal's truck there under braking. Great to see that from on board, but here comes Pataska. He's had to get out of it. He got a better run out of 4, but was unable to make it count because he just got caught up behind Mark Kapal as Connor Horn's running a little bit wide and missing apexes here. So Horn, he's maybe starting to struggle a little bit with the handling of his truck.
He did fall to the 158s last time by, and the track is starting to shift a little bit colder now, 64 degrees Fahrenheit, according to our MinuteCast data presented by AccuWeather. Still a 4-truck battle for the position as the clouds settle over top the circuit. And Horn still having to defend with all that pressure. It's been a very pressure-filled race for him, to say the very least. And he's coming towards one of the fastest corners on the racetrack, where we've seen in some points you can run turn 2 wide, turn 13.
Yeah, this is it's crucial to get on the power nice and early and get it nice and clean as well, that delivery, and that's exactly what he's done there. out of that turn. And Kapal is now the one under pressure because Pataska is getting closer and closer to the rear of the truck in front. So it's once again it's Toyota versus Chevy, and at the moment Pataska is trying to make it. The Japanese marks move there, and look at that move on the exit, the Coca-Cola curve.
They're side by side once more down the front stretch, and a chance to move up to 6th spot. As you can see, Pataska trying to dive to the inside line. Has the preferred spot and able to get the spot. Able to make the move, trying to go side by side with Horn at the same time as he gets the outside line of the Mercedes Arena. Can't get to the right side quarter panel, though, of Connor Horn. He slots into 6th. In that same corner, though, Andrew Karen nearly had disaster. He slid the tires all the way to the corner entry and was able to just avoid sliding up.
Oh, look at that. The great run again from Pataska out of 4. And he's trying to look on the inside. Not quite got an overlap, but he's making his intentions known now.
They got a lap truck in the sand right in front of them, though. Joshua Mertz went off the racetrack trying to let by the leaders. He's off onto the race circuit now, but we continue to follow on with this battle for 5th spot. Horn taking the inside line, trying to get the double apex. Pataska trying to run against the rumble strips. A difference of race lines once more, but you see that difference between Pataska and Kapal running the same line as Horn, able to get a little bit faster on the corner exit once again.
Yeah, look, Horn looks really good through the Schumacher S, to be fair. He's really got that truck hooked up through there, but then it's the slower corners that Horn just seems to be having maybe slight issues with the handling of his truck. But out of that right-hander again at 13, able to get on the power, and so far Connor Horn, I used to say, I'm impressed with what Connor Horn's doing here today. He's been putting on an exemplary performance and been able to keep it there as, well, that was Joshua Mertz that we just saw flying through the left-hand side. He's off track out the way. He has not had a good day as Josh.
He is still off the racetrack. The reason why he had the money shift, where it ended up shifting the truck to the left, race control thanking him for staying off the racing line and out of the way of said battle that you're still following along with your screen. No one has ducked down to the pit lane quite yet, but we are approaching that halfway point of the race in the next few laps. Horn still having to deal with defense. Pataska again along the rumble strips, and again can't get the run here. If you're Horn, what do you think is going through his mind, knowing that he's got one of the top drivers all season behind him? And while they're same compared skills on the oval side, it's been Pataska that's been stronger so far in this series' context.
Well, I think if you're Horn, you've just got to focus on yourself as it gets squirrely again. Does that truck hold in the middle of the track? You want to try and get a bit more over to the left-hand side for the entry of that corner there, Connor. But really, Connor Horn, he's got to make sure he just does what's right for him, what's been working for him, and he's just got to hit his marks, get his line right, get the apexes, control his breathing, because it's so easy, and I know this from experience, it's so easy to just hold your breath through corners and things like that. Control your breathing, control your emotions as well. Don't let your emotions take over. Just keep doing what you have to do, as we've had an incident, I believe, for Dennis Solo, and this is going to be going in towards the Dunlop hairpin. Try and get a look at this.
Yes, indeed, you are right. He ended up hooking the truck way too quickly into the left-hander. It's spinning the truck around in a 360. That looked like way too much speed, and that dropped him back to 12th and losing a lot of track time as well.
Kapal heads to the pits. Blixt comes to the pits. The Lempols are making their pits now. 14 laps into the race. This is going to be interesting to see how this strategy works out for them.
I was just about to mention we've seen Mertz and Belvin also already pit so far. Andrew Karen also joining the train of trucks coming into the pit stalls now. So it looks like the pit window is officially open here.
Pataska!
And Pataska diving to the inside, meanwhile, able to take advantage of some of the pits from behind and able to take advantage of Horn going to the Mercedes Arena. This time he took the advantage of the run on the outside of turn 1 after Horn slid the back tires down the hill.
We'll get a replay of that. We have to have a look back at that one then. So Pataska He holds that wider line and then decides, you know what, I'm going to keep it there. Look to the inside of 2. That is absolutely perfectly done. He held the apex as well, made Connor just get off the gas a little bit. That is absolutely perfect maneuver right there from Dallas Pataska.
Yes, indeed it was, and now Horn has got issues with the back tires. The reason why, you seen there on top of him getting out of the gas, he got loose on that corner exit down the transition, and now because of that, his back tires are going to be warm for the next couple laps at least, and going to be hard for Horn to grip the racetrack.
Yeah, you almost think, is it now time to react to Eric Blixt and Matt Capel, because their tyres are nice and fresh now. They're fresh out the pits, and they are going to be pushing and trying to make this strategy work. Blixt there coming out of the Dunlop hairpin into the Schumacher S. His teammate Capel was actually quicker in the pit stops, by the way, was Capel. So he is going to be pushing as well. So I would imagine that and here he comes, Connor Horn onto pit road.
And this is no surprise for Horn after what happened out of turn 1 last time by. Going to take fresh tires at least about a lap earlier than the halfway point and try and undercut the field. We'll have to see where he comes out compared to Blixt and Capel, who are of course out in that open air as we've seen. He's getting also passed by some of the lap traffic. Slovatic is also going to join him in the backdrop as you see in that black truck.
Yeah, so Paul Slavinek going onto pit road as well to take fuel and tyres. An interesting position that he's just taken on pit road, and whereas Paul Slavinek, the more traditional, i.e. straight into his pit stall, but out he comes again, and we'll try and bring this pit stop time up because it wasn't working earlier. There we go, 40.3 seconds, and Capel is crucially past Horn.
So it falls back both the Lempos racing trucks after some of the mistakes. That was a lost time about maybe 1 or 2 seconds, in part because of that last lap before he came into the pits. So now it's Capel, currently Blixt rather, that's leading the drivers that have pit so far. The drivers that haven't pit so far, Cameron, Selensky, Williams, Pataska, Smith the second, Levine alone with Spencer Dager Jr. Danny Soul is also in.
Do you know what's been really interesting? Bobby Zelensky did fall back to about 3.5 seconds, didn't he? Look at that gap now. It's 1 second between the two of them. So Sven and Bobby getting close together. I think Sven actually wanted to come onto pit road then, and he couldn't because there was lap traffic there.
That was that was Steven Stager Jr., pardon me. And so it looks like Cameron's is starting to fall off a little bit. You're right, I did notice there. Zelensky had closed the gap at one point to 2.5 seconds about 5 laps ago, but originally thought it might have been mistakes. Instead, though, you see the pace being picked up. 7/10 and 6/10 gained the last 2 laps as Cameron's tires start to burn out compared to the VRS Coenda truck.
David Williams is on pit road as well for his pit stop. Pataska staying out for the time being, but yeah, I really do think that Sven wanted to come onto pit road and make his pit stop, so he's feeling under pressure here, and quite rightly he should, because Bobby Zelensky, he is a very quick driver in this truck, and right now he's giving Sven a run for his money.
So Sven Cameron starting to really fall off the table in terms of pace. As you've seen just about 9/10 last time, Zelensky gaining a lot of his time at parts of the racetrack such as this, really late breaking into the corners, able to hold on to it. Compare that to Cameron as he brought up a tiny puff of smoke trying to lock up the brakes to make sure he didn't go off into the sand. So it looks like Cameron's really again struggling with those tires. Zelensky coming at the right place at the right time. And I think the reason, too, he may have stayed out not just because of traffic. If he knows he can take the race lead here, why come in? Why risk having older tires compared to a driver struggling the same cycle as you?
Yeah, exactly. You want to try and force the driver in front onto pit road first. And this is where Bobby now will be able to really start putting the pressure on. Make Sven push hard. Use those tyres even more. So therefore, he's going to be disadvantaged, so that if Bobby can go a lap longer, he's able to make the most of it, and they both decide to come onto pit road. So we've got a pit party. Sven almost losing control onto pit entry.
And a major drift that time from Sven Cameron, something we haven't seen since the Peak Antifreeze, the eNASCAR Peak Antifreeze iRacing Series at Sonoma last year. and I believe it was Zelensky that was involved in said drift. Both of them come into the pits. None of them made contact with the wall as both of them ended up getting a bit loose on that entry.
Pataska's onto pit road as well for his pit stop, and I would imagine that Jonathan Levine will be onto pit road as well as them as well. So this is down to who has parked best into their pit stall and who really has done the best job of looking after fuel as well, because if Bobby Zelensky was able to look after fuel, he should be able to jump, but they're about the same, just 3/10 of a second between them in time on the pit box.
The thing is, though, that the gain time was on Zelensky. He lost time, I should say. Half a second slower total. You might have noticed it took him an extra about second to get up on the jacks of the right side tires, and now it's falling back to 1.66 seconds. Remember, though, Zelensky seems to be more set up on the long run today here, Paul, while Cameron's is set up more towards the short and mid run and falls off in the final couple laps. We'll have to see how this goes with 14 to go and every single truck now in and out of the pits as Levine's just finished his final service.
Yeah, so Jonathan Levine just coming out of pit road then past the green cone, and Andrew Carron has managed to get ahead, although running deep into one was Karen. That's not ideal. You don't want to be using up your tyres and putting a load of heat through them that way. Interesting to note that Pataska has come out behind both Kapal and Connor Horn. So those fresher tyres for Horn and Kapal in the last couple of laps means that they've been able to get the jump. But Pataska is on fresher rubber now. You would imagine that he's going to make those moves eventually.
Meanwhile, we have a truck in the grass. I believe that's Belvin that's getting assistance from race control to get back going, able to keep away from trouble as Dager Jr. also gets out of the way.
Yeah, that's really good driving from those two trucks, and it's great to see that they're assisting the great action that we're seeing here in the Socks Out Racing V8 SuperTrucks World Championship race. And it's certainly been an enjoyable one, this one, and having this as one of the sprint races, I think, has really done a good job. So definitely, it's certainly been fun to watch, and I'm certainly enjoying it. It's Horn with the mistake there, and that's almost a gift for Pataska.
Pataska wants to open the present still, can't get to said present yet, as Horn still able to launch up despite bouncing around on the corner exit. Still approaching now, 12 laps to go, make it 13, pardon me, on the side, as you see on the left side of your screen. Again, to follow your favorite driver, be sure to go to RaceSpot.tv/timing to keep up with where your favorite drivers are across the circuit today, as Horn nearly comes across the front nose of Dallas Pataska into the grass of said circuit. Still having to fend. Remember, though, Kapal is also up there, and also remember again, Pataska on those one-lap fresher tires. Last time by, Pataska, of course, a bit slower with the pit exit, but as well, Horn and Kapal in the 157s as Pataska tries it high this time to the Valvoline curb, can't make it work.
He's trying everything he can to make the move and make it stick. And he's certainly putting the pressure on here, and these two battling is allowing Mike Kapal to pull away here in this one. So those two really putting on a good show, and I have to say, I mentioned it earlier, Connor Horn, he's had a really strong outing here today. I've been really impressed with his drive, and certainly it's a great addition to the championship, and he's giving one of the fastest drivers in the series a run for his money as well.
Coming into today's round, Horn had only finished in the top 10 once so far in the season. Despite having some strong runs, but also some bad luck today, might be a chance to redeem a little bit there and have his best run of the season by far so far. The question is, how long can he defend? Meanwhile, one of the Air Radicals on line trucks, the corporate teammate of Pataska, and Camerons, he's dealing with pressure of Bobby Zelensky. They're separated by 8/10, make it 7/10 through turn number 1 this time. The lead has been coming down dramatically, it seems. Not as dramatically as the last run at the end of the pit window, but slides like that are why Zelensky is looking much more comfortable with 12 laps to go.
Do you know what? This looks more like the Bobby Zelensky that we saw a couple of seasons ago, or even at the start of last season as well. This is he's come alive in this race, I feel, and it could be the start of a bit of a championship charge for him. He's doing this for a bit of fun, he says. He's mentioned that in our interviews previously. Well, he's certainly having a lot of fun out there, isn't he?
Sometimes winning makes things very fun, especially being able to take away a checker flag and celebrate with your team. And you can see Zelensky wants a chance to celebrate for the first time this season. Still now separated by half a second. The strongest places he's been compared to Kammertz, especially in the second half of the first run of the green flag. First half of the pit window for the last run. Has been through the S's in the hard braking zones where he's been a bit later on the brakes, able to get faster despite that on the corner exit. He'll be able to smoothly take the apexes a little bit more compared to Kammertz, who's been apparently in the past couple laps, what we're seeing, all over the racetrack with back tires.
Yeah, so Kammertz is really pushing hard. And you imagine that Sven is maybe taking the life out of those tyres, and it basically appears that Bobby Zelensky has been able to look after his tyre life that little bit more. We mentioned how the weather conditions would help the tyre life, and certainly the forecast has helped those guys out with the AccuWeather Minute Cast. I can see that the track temperature 71 degrees Fahrenheit at the moment, so still a very chilly racetrack for these drivers, so they can push that little bit harder.
Look on the bright side, the lowest temperature total you can have on iRacing is 65 degrees set up for a race. It's 45 degrees in real life today. So this is, of course, adjusted for that. We could be racing in snow right now, which could be much more difficult. Speaking of difficult, Pataska making it more difficult still on Horn. He's nearly made the pass twice in the past half lap. For 6th spot as they're side by side. Right now, Pataska and Horn in the Mercedes arena.
Yeah, they certainly are. I'm just confused that I think we may have lost Eric Blixt from this race.
Yes, we did. Eric Blixt is off the racetrack all of a sudden. He was in 3rd. So something going on with Eric Blixt from P number 3. He made contact with Williams. It was bumping and banging, and then he disappeared off the racetrack. So we have lost Eric Blixt from P3 for Lempals Racing all of a sudden.
I'm wondering if he's maybe had damage to that truck. That means that he decided it wasn't worth trying to pit as well. Here comes Pataska. We'll stick with this for the time being and have a look back at that a little bit later. But Pataska trying to go around the outside of the Schumacher S. This is brave, and it could work. Oh no, it's not.
And Horn spins out. Contact to the second leg of the Michael Schumacher S. We stay green as Horn gets back going. He's not going to be happy though after the tight contact on the right hand, the quick left right. And you'll see why it looked like maybe 50-50 racing incident.
Oh, it's just that little bit of a squeeze there. And well done, Connor Horn, for keeping that truck out the wall there. Great driving from Connor. And, well, it's unfortunate that happened. Pataska was there. It is a tricky place to go too wide, though. It's through the Schumacher S, and you've seen exactly the reason why it's tricky to do that.
And again, that's going to really hurt the tires for a second straight run. The thing is, though, Horn's going to have to make these tires last for 10 laps now with 10 laps to go. That's easier said than done because it takes a couple laps especially to try and get the tires back to around the same temperatures they were before. Right now, he's going to be slipping and sliding maybe until maybe 7 to go, give or take.
Yeah, it's tricky to bring the temperature of those tyres down, especially when you get it over the threshold that they like to operate at, and especially around this track as well, because there are so many slow speed corners and then the hard acceleration out of those corners. It just means it makes it that little bit more difficult to lose that little bit of overheating in the tyre temperature. But this lead battle is still ongoing, but Kammertz at the moment has actually pulled out a little bit of a gap.
And he's pulled away once again. We've seen this before the last run there, where they looked like they were a little bunch before. Then we've seen that lead go to 3 seconds. But the part where Zelensky's been the stronger truck, it seems so far, the final 5 laps of each run, that means the final 4 laps could be what we might be seeing and anticipating here. You also see, though, the difference again in the racing line. Zelensky has been attacking the MGK chicane very aggressively, almost like not even hitting the brakes, trying to go across the rumble strips with pure precision without going off in the grass or bouncing his way around and spinning his truck out.
Yeah, it's interesting how the different lines can affect things. You can see the brakes glowing there on Zelensky's truck, so you can see how hard they're pushing these vehicles, but certainly different lines can have different outcomes, and it's interesting to see how this one pans out as we head towards the end of the race. 9 to go here already. It's been a thrilling race, and this one isn't over, especially when you've got Pataska now putting the pressure on Martin Kapal.
And Pataska trying to move up to 4th spot. This would be the highest he's been all day. You look at your top end and the bottom side of your screen. This currently sits 29 seconds back of Kammert's at the moment, with Zelensky up at the front. Then you have Williams running on his own after what happened to Eric Blix. Then you have behind that Connor Horn, Paul Sylvanek, also about a couple seconds separated. Then Aaron Smith 45 seconds back of first place on the racetrack. That's your top 8. And currently Pataska is in line for potentially winning the Hard Charger Award with what is now potentially what would be a plus 10 if he can get the pass done. He's got the run, trying to get to the inside line once more through the Dunlop curve. He's been aggressive here before. He'll be aggressive once more and gives a little love tap. Holding on to it though is Kapal as he drifts his way off the corner.
I tell you what, Kapal has been all over the place on the throttle, and these guys really, they've been pushing hard, and they certainly are giving it absolutely everything. But at the moment, it's still Kapal in that position in front, but Pataska, his tyres are 3 laps newer, and that will show about this point of the race.
And it was shown a little bit with the pace last time too, not just skill. 2 seconds quicker Pataska rather was compared to Kapal on the racetrack. That is the last time by times to compare that to. Track temp has also dropped since then to 69 degrees. That was from 71. Just a couple laps to go as well. As well as Pataska gets the run through turn 1. That difference in track temperature means while there has been more grip on that set of tires that has been happening, can also help with the tire wear a bit for the driver in the red, black, and white truck.
Dear.
And why Kapal can go sliding just like that.
Yeah, but that sliding loses him in position. So down to 5th place for Martin Kapal, and Dallas Pataska up to 4th place in this race. So starting further down your field, down in 14th position, is now up to that 4th place. Really good Charger drive, but I tell you what, it'll be a tall order to catch David Williams now, because he's about 12 seconds behind David.
He'll need a miracle to catch up just to Dave Williams alone, 32 seconds back of Pataska. The driver that is, though, there with cameras is still Zelensky. They're still separated by about a full second now. Zelensky losing that time in Sector 2 of the racetrack. That was all the way through the Michelin curb and the Warnsteiner curb, and really struggling through the Advenbogen as well. So as you're seeing here, to lose that time and lose that straight line speed, he needs to keep up. However, he's been gaining a lot back by being very aggressive here through one of the final chicanes on the racetrack, again and again and again.
These two, of course, as we saw, pitted on the same lap, so there's no tyre difference between the two of them. It's just how good you are with your right foot on the application of the gas and on the brakes as well. Let's not forget, tyre wear is affected by your brake usage, and look at that, Sven Kammert's locking up in his inside front tyre. He's certainly pushing that truck, but he's certainly showing that he still deserves that lead at the moment as we're heading into the closing stages of this race.
Approaching 6 laps to go this time by on the racetrack, and that's one thing I've noticed throughout the day as well too with the braking lines for a lot of drivers. The ones that have been moving up through the field, or the ones that are, while being aggressive like Zelensky, are not being are braking earlier, but able to spread the speed longer compared to drivers that are braking a little bit later and having to mash the brakes and burn up the front tires, as we've been seeing Kammert's nearly slid up the racetrack doing so again this time.
I tell you what, Kammert's there V'ing off the Dunlop hairpin there, so what that means is rather than just hugging the apex of that corner all the way through, he's clipped an early apex, lets the truck go a little bit wider and then cuts back in to get on the power earlier. That is it's two different lines through that corner that you could take, and that's certainly one of them that is working for Sven Kammertz here, as he's pulled out back to about a second out in the lead.
You've seen on board from Bobby Zelensky as he tries to reel him back in. It seems Kammertz is starting to feel his best laps of this run right now. Last time by was just about 3/100ths faster than the man in the purple and orange truck. We'll see where the times sit this time by with 6 to go. Meanwhile, trying to move up from P7 to P6 is Paul Sylvanek. He's caught back up to Connor Horn. 2/10 gain last time by. Gained a 10th a couple laps ago.
Yes, you can see how they've swapped times on the last 2 laps here, and I mean, literally just 1,000th of a second difference between them on one lap, lap 22 to lap 23. So those two, they're still pretty close though. I wouldn't write out Paul Sylvanek here in this one. You could see Connor Horn on the exit of the chicane just getting a little bit loose. So don't count this one out yet for a bit of a close finish with 6 to go in this race.
And you look as the DMG United sponsored truck runs up through the middle at the moment, and you can see about the same braking point this time compared to these two right now. Remember though, Horn had burned up those tires before. He's still lighting the back tires up, again sliding down that transition through turn 1. That's been his weakest part of the racetrack all day.
Yeah, it certainly has, and that incident with Pataska, as you mentioned, putting a lot of temperature through those rear tyres, and that means that those rear tyres will be suffering that little bit at this stage compared to Slavonic, because they did pit on the same lap, these two drivers, but Slavonic, because he didn't have that incident, maybe just has that little bit better tyre life in those rear tyres.
See, still separated by 3 truck lengths, the two of them still trying to dig his way up to a potential 6th place, trying to use those tires to his advantage, also trying to use the speed is Bobby Zelensky, again gaining a 10th last time after losing time the past 2 times around, and this seems to be around that time where the handling seems to shift towards Zelensky's way in the racetrack. 5 laps to go here at the Nürburgring for round 5 of the V8 SuperTrucks World Championship. Zelensky now on the prowl.
Yeah, this is where we get to see Bobby now start to put the pressure on with 5 to go, and he's starting to really make his presence known to Sven, and he wants to try and force Sven to make a mistake. But we've seen how good Sven has been in these last few rounds, and know that he can push hard. Bobby Zelensky, you saw him there run all 4 wheels over the outside of turn number 4, so he wouldn't have been able to make an overtake there. So it does give you an advantage, does that line out of turn 4, but Bobby will just catch that curb and it unsettled the truck there, and that's cost him about a 10th or 2.
We'll see if he can gain it back. Late brakes again, tries to go for the late apex, really carrying speed up to about 56 to the corner, but losing time on exit this time by, so Kammert's now trying to take advantage of that one curb mistake. Both of them running along the curbs. This time Kammert's a little unsettled, coming out through the second part of the Michael Schumacher S as they head into the Michelin curb, heading to 4 laps to go this time by. They're still separated by 3 truck lengths, with Zelensky really arcing his way into the Warnsteiner curb.
Yeah, Zelensky's pushing now. He realizes that this is the point of the race to start making some money moves and to make it count. They are catching up to a little bit of lap traffic as well, it must be mentioned. And those two, we've got Dennis Solo and Stephen Dager Jr. as well, are going to be the lap traffic in question. But we've seen how the lap traffic has behaved themselves and got out of the way of everybody in this one, so that shouldn't become a factor.
We have had a couple DNFs, should note real quickly. Of course, Blix, Mertz, and Kane out of the race now today. Those are the 3 DNFs on the racetrack. Cameron's, though, not wanting to see a DNF to his tires. Doesn't want them to fail with only 4 laps to go. Smoke the heck out of them. They head to the Mercedes Arena this time, separated by 1 truck length. Lap traffic about 15 truck lengths ahead as they head towards the exit of the arena.
Yeah, this is great to watch. Fantastic stuff. This is what we wanted to see here in this race. And it doesn't matter how long you make these drivers drive these trucks, you can see how they're able to keep it close and give us some great action here in this SuperTrucks Racing V8 SuperTrucks World Championship race. And you can see all the bits of detritus and rubber and gravel getting kicked up on the exit of turn number 6. And again, different lines taken through Dunlop, and Zelensky's got a good run.
Cameron's still able to make the run on the outside and keep it to single file. He does, however, hit the rumble strips heading into Michael Schumacher S. Not able to take advantage, though, Zelensky. Much slower run that time through the same section, matching his line onto said rumble strips. Lap traffic now ahead. Steven Dager Jr. a lap down off across the racetrack. He'll move towards the outside line, it appears, as they line themselves up towards the Avon Bogan this time by.
Yeah, so it shouldn't become too much of a factor. I would imagine that he'll back off here, which he does. Lets your leaders through. Again, great driving from your back markers here in this race. And Sven and Bobby now, what can we expect to see from them? Because they're going to be seeing 3 to go this time by. And things just get a little bit more pressured when you get to this point in the race.
3 to go up from the flag stand now, as Cameron still in front. Last time by, Zelensky, even with that mistake to Michael Schumacher S, gained a 10th. Again, locking up his Cameron's, able to just hold on to the truck as he still keeps the race lead.
Yeah, but you can see the pressure that he's under. We're looking back here, and it's starting to count, is this pressure. The truck's just getting a little bit loose, under power. And these guys definitely are on the limit of adhesion, and they are giving it absolutely everything.
And remember, the last time around the end of the first run, it was up to 3 seconds Zelensky had to close. He's only had to close 1 second this time. He can try and take advantage of the long run tires this time by, and a chance to try and make a pass, this time once again to the Dunlop curb. Last time Zelensky had a chance for the pass. Cameron's this time slides his way up the racetrack. Again, Zelensky takes a peek, but this time can't get side by side.
It wasn't on at that point. And I think Bobby realised that. He just fell into line. He wanted to be closer, and that's exactly what he's got here. He is closer now to Sven Kamertz. This is going to be an absolutely humdinger of an end here. This is brilliant racing between the two of them. Absolutely neck and neck. Two of the best drivers that you'll see, and they are giving each other no quarter.
Lap traffic still ahead. Now it's Danny Soul, the next driver they're about to lap. That would put him a first lap down as Cameron goes for the defensive line. Takes the right side, tries to aim himself for the NG chicane coming to 2 laps to go as he's off into the grass. Zelensky tries to dive, locks up the tires, and he goes up the racetrack to the Coca-Cola curb, loses a bunch of time.
Yeah, that's cost Bobby big there. It's cost him a bunch of time. He's dropped back now. And his gap, as we are trying to get the graphic up, there we go. His gap now 0.7 of a second. 2 laps to go. That was a big opportunity, but it was also a big mistake to get all crossed up into the Coca-Cola curve. Great driving again from our lap traffic, Danny Solo, and now these two left to battle it out here for towards the end of the race. 2 to go. It's going to be an epic finish, this one.
I also wanted to point this out too. Around the same point where before they came in, this was around lap 14, 15-ish. It was about 6/10 gained by Bobby Zelensky. Can he try and regain that back up to try and make for what could be a fantastic finish we're about to see? Cameron's a little bit faster this time off the Ford curb. A little bit of a slide, though, from Bobby Zelensky. Separated by 4 truck lengths once more into the Dunlop curb they go. Different braking lines again. Cameron slides himself to the inside line. Zelensky tries to diamond it. Much more stronger exit this time. His strongest run at the corner in the past 5 laps.
Yeah, look at this. Look at the way that Bobby's able to use the curb on the left of the Schumacher S there, but Kemet's just pulled away a little bit. We're going to drive her on pit road. By the way, Jonathan Levine is on pit road. Maybe he didn't have enough fuel to make it to the end. Maybe tried to chance his arm. So he's on pit road, but we're going to stay with this battle here, Jonathan, because this is going to go to the white flag.
This could be an exciting finish here, about a lap and a half to go. Zelensky falling again the tire tracks once more. So yes, they go. Zelensky's been charging this corner all day. He'll charge it once more. 3 truck lengths the gap. White flag waits at the stand for these 2 drivers. As Zelensky runs his way on the bottom side of the curb, Cameron gets the white flag up at the stand now. Can he hold on? They're separated again now by 3 truck lengths. Zelensky is close 4/10 in the past lap. He'll dive to the inside at turn 1, decides to go to the outside. Cameron decides to defend the inside. Can Zelensky go for the cross? No, he can't yet.
This is brilliant. This is absolutely epic, and this is what you get through this section of the course, how the different lines all pan out for both of them. And these two, it's the ultimate mind games at over 100 miles an hour.
Separate again by 1 truck length. Still 3/4 of a track to go. Separate by 2/10. Cameron's on the outside once more as they line up for the Valvoline and Ford curbs. Zelensky's been a bit more slower in this corner for the past couple laps. Can Cameron again pick up time? No, he can't. Zelensky's in a great position the past couple times. He's trying to make a look to the Dunlop curb. Will he do it here on the white flag lap? To the outside he goes. Cameron's to the inside, trying to diamond off as Zelensky as he can't get side by side yet. The nerves still across the racetrack to the Michael Schumacher as they go. Cameron makes his first mistake in the past 5 laps of the corner. Zelensky has his best run through the section as they go to the heartbreaking Michelin curb. Still about 6-7 more turns to go with Zelensky putting on the pedals, trying to go as fast as he can, tries to go onto the gas as he heads towards the 8 Von Bogen. Only a few more turns to go. Can Zelensky get the run to the chicane? That's the question as he heads towards his strongest point of the racetrack all day. Cameron runs the curb. Zelensky gasses through it. 1 more turn to decide it. Zelensky takes the outside. Cameron loses it. Zelensky loses it. He slides up. He falls back. Sven Cameron will win a 3rd straight race in the V8 SuperTrucks World Championship. Are you kidding me?
Wow, what an end to that race. That was absolutely brilliant driving from both of them. And I tell you what, that was a push to the end. This race isn't over, by the way. Paul Slavinik and Connor Horn, they're battling it out for 6th and 7th place as well here, Justin.
An exciting finish for 1st, an exciting finish coming up for 6th. Horn's been defending Slavinik for the past few laps. The question is, can he hold on for 1 more set of corners? They go to the NGK chicane, have the Coca-Cola curb to go. The top 4 have crossed the line in single file, but Horn going to have to work for the 6th spot. One of his highest finishes of the season, his 2nd top 10 all year, will come here in Germany. Checkered flag for Horn, he finishes 6th. Slavanik will finish off in 7th. Aaron Smith, the 2nd, will finish 8th. Andrew Karen coming on his own in 9th. And Jonathan Levine starting to come around the final part of the racetrack himself after pitting a few laps ago, will come away in 10th.
Yeah, we mentioned about how he had to come onto pit road. There's a little bit of damage on the front end of his truck as well. And sorry we didn't really show anybody else for up to the final few laps of that race, because that was absolutely brilliant to watch, and we had to just keep an eye on that lead battle, because that was just, as I said, 2 of the best drivers battling it out, mental games as well as pushing their trucks to the absolute limit and beyond, as we saw from Bobby Zelensky.
Still following along as Levine crosses the line. That will end off the race. Sol Belvin Dager Jr. among the drivers that will also finish across the track. But Sven Kammert's the one taking the checker flag, trying to get towards to where he can do burnouts on his cool-down lap, as we'll take a look at your race results in just a moment. It could have went either way, though, with Bobby Zelensky, as you might have seen, nearly made contact with the left rear quarter panel. of Kammert's coming to the checker flag in the final corner. But Kammert's, for a third straight race, came away with a victory in the V8 SuperTrucks World Championship. David Williams quietly finished off in third, 27 seconds back of the race lead. Dallas Pataska came within 4 seconds of reeling him in. He was as much as 10 seconds back with 10 laps to go. Monica Paul comes away with the top 5 today for Lempos Racing, with Connor Horn coming away with the strongest finish of the year for Gold Team Racing in 6th, the second top 10. Paul Sylvanek finished off in 7th, along with Andrew Smith the second, Andrew Karen, Jonathan Levine rounding up the top 10. It was a rough one for the rest of the drivers today. Danny Solo finished off in 11th today, a lap down. Aspen Belvin, a lap down in the 12th position. 13th, Stephen Dager Jr., 2 laps down, with Eric Blixt, Joshua Mertz, and James Kings, your DNF. Of course, King coming into the pits on lap number 2 today. Mertz pulling into the garage area after struggling much of the day, and Blixt ending up calling it quits after the contact with David Williams out of turn 1. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back in just a few moments with your post-race coverage here on RaceSpot TV, where the Sox Out Racing V8 SuperTrucks World Championship for the Nürburgring. You're watching on RaceSpot TV. Absolute insanity. That is one of the ways you can describe today's finish between Sven Kammertz and Bobby Zalenski for round number 5 of the Sox Out Racing V8 SuperTrucks World Championship at the Grand Prix Strecke circuit here in Nürburgring, Germany. Justin Prince, Paul Smith here on RaceSpot TV after a crazy finish, to say the least, separated by 3 seconds on the score sheet, but could have went either way heading into the final corner into the Coca-Cola curb. One man has won 3 straight, and that man is now going to have the chance to grow his point lead. Joining us here in the broadcast booth is your winner for the 3rd straight round in 2019. It's Sven Kammertz for Radicals Online. Sven, a crazy finish here today in Germany. What's going through your mind reaching that checker flag today?
Very happy with the win, obviously. I mean, It was a very close race from start to finish, so I'm very happy to finally having, well, I suppose beaten Bobby on raw pace, I suppose. But yeah, very pleased with the win. I mean, I do want to give a thank you straight away to Dallas. I couldn't have done any of this without him, so big thanks to him already.
Yes, indeed. I do want to ask, of course, first off, how much pressure were you feeling from the back from Zelensky? Because the end of the first run before the pit stops, Zelensky closed down a 3-second gap. It was only a 1-second gap he had to reel in for the second run. What kind of pressure were you feeling as the race went to its closing stages of today's event?
Well, the initial start or just the initial few laps were just getting a few laps in and just getting a bit of distance, which worked. So I got an idea where I was faster, where I was slower. So I tried to manage the first stint a bit, but in the end, lap 10 or so, I don't know, I made a few mistakes. Tires got a little bit too hot, and then I managed to close in. So from the second stint onward, after the pit stop, I just knew that I just had to calm myself down a little bit more the initial few laps. I knew my tires would have lasted a few laps longer, and well, I barely managed to hang on in the end. So I suppose it all worked out.
It definitely worked out to get to victory lane, but it could have went either way because you and Zelensky were about maybe 3-4 inches away from making contact in that final corner. When you seen him make that run through the final chicane, rather, the NGK chicane, to the Coca-Cola curb, how difficult was it to try and keep that calm and try and keep that spot heading to the checker flag?
Well, on the previous lap or previous two laps, maybe it was a similar situation where he, well, could have managed to get his nose in on the final corner coming out of the chicane. So I knew I had to slow it up just enough to make sure I got that inside line. And well, I got very lucky in the end because I also overcooked the braking point. I just managed to hang on to it while Bobby just had a little bit less rear grip to keep a hold of it.
Indeed, right now, something that is also indeed of is you having the points lead, winning 3 straight races so far now in the schedule, after coming in with just a couple career wins in your entire time in the V8 SuperTrucks Championship. We had the Brands Hatch next on May the 11th. How difficult will it be for you at that track to try and make it what could be a remarkable four-peat, something we haven't seen since the man in the purple and orange truck that was chasing you today?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, it's Brands Hatch. A lot of angulations, a lot of height differences, a lot of off-camber corners. So it's last season as well was a very interesting race. So we did have a pretty good car last year. So hopefully we'll be able to figure something out that holds up for a long run as well there.
Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you get going here in Victory Lane?
Well, as always, thank you to Dallas, as I already mentioned. Couldn't have done any of this without him. I'm sure that he'll be back at the front again for the next few races. For the rest, I would like to thank our sponsors, Cranfield Simulation, Joe Real Timing, Armor Centrum, Astor Sim Race, the My Opinion Dare for Fact podcast, Turn Racing, Simortal, Six Sideways, and Pixel Dust as well. Thank you for the new paints.
And thank you for the time. Congratulations on your 3rd straight victory on the schedule.
Thank you.
And that was Sven Kammertz smiling his way into victory lane today, and a very challenging one to say the very least for his 3rd straight round of victory. Standing by with the 2nd place finisher now is Paul Smith with Bobby Zelensky in a crazy finish. Paul, take it away.
Yeah, thank you very much. So, Bobby, 2nd place in the race here. You started 2nd. We saw how in that first stint, Sven was able to pull away a little bit of a gap, but then you were able to pull him in towards the end of the first stint, and then that 2nd stint, it was just absolutely crazy. You guys trading lap times.
Yeah, I was hoping I'd get the opportunity to maybe jump him in the pit stops or undercut him because once I got going, that first part of the race was just horrible. Didn't really get a feel for the car. I am on limited practice, being that we just did Porsche earlier, and last time at Barber it was a lot easier because I was racing at that track, but I had to totally switch gears and didn't have a whole lot of time. So I think in the beginning of this race, you saw me trying to kind of learn the track on the fly and get all my marks and my apexes down, and just get the feel worked out. And On top of that, I think there was a little short run speed out of the setup for sure, but definitely made up for it with the long run pace. We were flying. Only problem is it's really hard to pass, and but we almost got there.
Well, that's it. We saw you had a couple of opportunities towards the end of the race there, at the end of lap 28, just going a little bit deep on the brakes into the final corner, and then right at the end there, just giving us a little bit of a heart attack with you losing control there in the final corner, or half spinning, should we say. But certainly a great... You were able to put the pressure on, and you were able to keep the pressure on. Was it basically just trying to force that mistake out of Sven to give you that opportunity?
Well, I was trying to set him up for turn one, and honestly, what may have lost me the race is lap 28, the end of the lap. I accidentally double downshifted into neutral, and I just totally missed the corner. And then that whole next lap, I had to make up all that time, and I couldn't make up enough to get a good look into one for the final lap. So that hurt a lot. That last time, and he was also defending everywhere in any other corner, so I couldn't really try to send it. But I knew turn one I could send it even around the outside because I had the braking advantage. But the last corner of the race, like we both went in there a bit hot and both started drifting, and I kind of chased it farther up because he was drifting. If I would have known, obviously it's hindsight, but and I would have just stayed behind him. And there was like a lane there because he missed the corner as well, so we could have had like a side-by-side roll to the finish. But I tried to just send it around the outside, do something because he was defending, and that's last chance. But yeah, it felt good to be that fast on the longer run. Honestly, that's something that's kind of missed from my setups here for a while, and it's what really helped me win the 2017 title. So I think positives to take out of this.
Absolutely, really good positives, and see you back up at the front there. Brands Hatch next. Then we had fun the last time we were at Brands Hatch. Is that circuit that you enjoy? Again, it's going to be following up from a Porsche World Championship event again, so limited practice for you once again.
Yeah. What the hell, Steven? Like, stop! I'm making these races the same day, so next season, please. But yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's gonna be hard for preparation, obviously. This only gives me like an hour or so before the race, because usually I have to. But I don't have a lot of time. But hopefully we can get our first win of the year. It's weird going through 5 races and just being so close every time. But I don't really have that high of expectations this year. I've kind of stated that before. And it's Brands Hatch, won there last year, and it's a fun track. I don't really know. I don't really know because I got to get my qualifying setup fixed. I was like 9/10 off in qualifying, and Sven may have been the better driver, but I don't think he was 9/10 better driver. So I got to get that fixed. But hopefully I just go out there and have some fun, and I'm in the fight. It's really the goal.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to see you in the fight there. And before we let you go, anyone you want to give a quick mention to? Yeah,
thanks, Coin to Sim Sport. I had my boy Dave right behind me in 3rd place. Getting us both on the podium for the first time. Be a start of a string of good runs for him in this league, and yeah. And, thanks to you guys for the broadcast and everyone at SOR. See you for Brands Hatch.
Well, thank you very much, Bobby, and all the best for Brands Hatch and also for the Porsche series as well, and NASCAR Peak Anti-Freeze series as well.
Thanks, and sometimes GT.
Yeah, sometimes GT as well. Take it easy.
And that was Bobby Zelensky trying to manage 100-plus series at once, it seems. His teammate today, David Williams, of course, came away in the 3rd spot. Why don't we quickly try and see if we can chat with him? He may have had a quiet run together on his own for much of the day today, David Williams, but he had some intense battles today, especially with Eric Blix. David, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a bit of a dull race, to be honest, after I had a good fight with Eric at the start. I was definitely more comfortable with the fresh tyres, and I started to pull away after I eventually got past him, and then I thought it was going to be kind of dull from there, but the tyres started to go off again. He undercut me, and then we had some more good battles as I was the one with the fresh tyres once again. But we'd had some contact earlier in the race. He had a bit more contact, and unfortunately, I think he got disqualified. So that was a shame for it to finish like that. But yeah, happy to finally be on the podium.
Yes, indeed. Unfortunately for Eric, it was a disqualification via incident point, something not thought of really the entire day, with 21 being the incident point level, one of 2 drivers to reach that. But let's, of course, talk about the difficulty of the track. Your first podium in this series, how difficult was it to try and manage your way to that 3rd spot today while not making severe mistakes compared to some rounds where you've been towards the front and got stuck in traffic?
Well, I mean, it's no secret that me and Bobby have pretty limited preparations, unfortunately. It obviously lands on the same day as the Porsche World Championship, so it's a lot of fun. I would say, honestly, the car itself, or the truck itself, is the most challenging thing. I mean, we both know, especially I know, that the Nürburgring very well. Done many laps in GT3, GTE, and the Porsche. So it's just, yeah, this is a one-of-a-kind vehicle for sure. So and that's kind of what attracted me to this championship. It's really nicely organised, and the car is characterful, let's say. So yeah.
It's a truck, of course. People will say
Right.
that. But no, don't need to apologize. How difficult is it to try and manage the million things at once? Because Bobby actually hit on that for preparation time to make sure you don't have a rough race or make severe mistakes. As Zelensky put it, only had an hour to make sure you were ready to go for the race today.
Yeah, I must admit I lean on Bobby quite a lot for advice with this vehicle. So yeah, he had me sorted out with the fuel loads and strategy. In fact, I was thinking about the strategy as well, because I saw Eric went for the undercut. So because me and Bobby obviously chatting about it, and I decided to go a bit longer to try and have a chance to fight back with much fresher tyres. So yeah, we pretty much manage it over voice chat as the race is unfolding.
Next round heads to Brands Hatch. What are your thoughts on that racetrack based on your experience?
Well, I've never driven the truck there, so that's going to be another interesting experience for sure.
Let me put it this way. Your experience in other kinds of road cars, how do you feel that will translate to the truck at Brands Hatch, to put it that way?
I find Brands Hatch is a circuit where you need to be quite precise. There's only one real line through the corners, which historically hasn't really suited my style. I tend to be less precise than other drivers. It's one of the reasons why I struggle generally in open wheel cars relative to GT cars. Obviously the truck should allow for a more of a field driving style, which will suit me better. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how it goes for sure. Is there anyone you want to thank before we let you go?
Well, thanks obviously to Stephen and the guys for organising such an enjoyable championship, to yourselves for the broadcasts, and Virtual Racing School, of course, VTech SimQuip, and Design, and Bobby.
Congratulations on your first podium of the season.
Thanks a lot, guys.
That was David Williams coming away third today for VOS Glenda SimSport in the number 81 truck. Of course, usually this is the part where we bring in our hard charger due to prior commitments. Dallas Pataska, your hard charger, gaining plus 10 spots after not being able to set a qualifying time due to safety points. Able to finish fourth today. He is the hard charger, not able to come today once again due to prior commitment. But it was a heck of a drive from Dallas Pataska to get up to fourth spot. Even though it was 31 seconds back, he had some great battles and some great pace all day. That was comparable to the front three.
Yeah, absolutely, and really, he showed the pace that he has there, but he also showed a little element of patience as well in some of the moves. And yeah, he got involved in that incident with Connor Horn, but in fact, why don't we bring Connor Horn in, because he's sat patiently and we've not spoken to him, have we? So we'll bring Connor Horn in. And Connor, welcome to the broadcast booth, and an interesting day there out for you, and a really good result in 6th place.
Yeah, I didn't even really expect the top 10, but I guess all the years being in a league on Forza games worked for me, because that was really the only experience I had at the track. But I had a good setup, and I was able to hold off a bunch of those guys, Kappel and Pataska, and I think whoever the 27 was for a while, and I was in a good position, maybe a top 5. I was able to keep Dallas behind me after the pit stop, and I think I was going to chase down Martin if I didn't have to fend off Dallas. I think I would have caught Martin, but then Dallas he tried putting another truck into a 1-lane part of the track and turned me around, which I really didn't expect him to go for a move there. I didn't think there was any room for it, but he went for it, and what happened, and I was fortunate to keep the car straight after the spin, and I was able to hold off the 88 to keep it in 6th.
Well, that's it. I mean, we did mention in broadcast, and I'm sure you'll watch it back later, that it was really well done to keep that truck out the wall there. And we did mention also that really that area of the track is difficult to go side by side. But you say that you were surprised with the result then. But going forward, then next time out, we're at Brands Hatch. What experience do you have of that, or is it again just from your Forza days?
I've raced it more than Nürburgring, that's for sure. Both layouts. It's an interesting track for sure. I think it might be better for me, and if I can get the setup keyed up again, maybe I'll have another chance at a top 5. But like I said, Forza's really helped me out at a lot of road course tracks, because I'm an oval racer really. But coming over to try something different and getting better each and every week, so that's good for me.
Absolutely. And well, you're representing Go Team Racing. Take it away. Who do you want to thank?
Mainly Daniel Solo. We've both been trying to help each other so much, get better results for our team, and hopefully this is a sign of things to come. I know I got 6th. I think he got 11th, and sooner or later we'll both be competing for top 5s, hopefully by the end of the season.
Well, all the best, Connor, and thanks for joining us in the commentary booth, and onwards to the next round.
Thanks for having me.
That was Connor Horn coming away 6th today, his 2nd top 10 of the season. And as I mentioned before, someone that has that's shown a lot of great talent on the iRacing service has started to show it again today. But of course, it was a great round here for round number 5 here at the Nürburgring circuit today. Paul, your final thoughts quickly before we head off to Brands Hatch in a couple weeks.
I mean, once again, we've seen how this sprint format really brings out an element of the strategy as well as tyre management, and we certainly saw how some drivers did the undercut and tried to gain positions that way, but definitely really, really good racing, good hard, fair racing as well, and an epic ending to the race there as well. So I've really enjoyed it, and Brands Hatch, the last time we were there, it was certainly action-packed, and I would expect to see more of that next time out.
We'll see if there is that action for sure. 27 laps at Brands Hatch again. That is on May the 11th. Start time estimated 3:50 p.m. Eastern. You can tune in for the coverage here on RaceSpot TV. But it's time to say goodbye here from RaceSpot TV and beautiful Germany. I'd like to thank our sponsors on the screen. I also like to thank Paul Smith, who's been in the control booth throughout the day today, as well as my co-commentator for what has been an exciting day of action here at Nürburgring. For everyone else, for the drivers, for Sox Out Racing, and everybody else that we may be forgetting here, I'm Justin Prince, saying so long, and we'll see you next time on May the 11th from Brands Hatch.